The silver spacecraft descended through Earth's atmosphere, its hull gleaming under the warm sunlight. It was small by interstellar standards, just large enough for the 4 Astrali researchers and their equipment. As the vessel touched down in a meadow surrounded by dense forest, its landing gear sank slightly into the soft ground. Captain Mina was the first to emerge. She stood at the top of the ramp, her tall, slender form elegant against the blue sky. Her skin had a faint lavender hue that shimmered when she moved. She breathed deeply, sampling Earth's air through her specialized respiratory filters. Oxygen levels are higher than predicted, she noted, making a quick entry in her datapad. Gia, what do the scanners show? Gia, the team's technology specialist, consulted her instruments. No signs of advanced civilization within scanning range. No power grids, no artificial signals, no industrial emissions. She brushed her silvery hair away from her face. Just as the archives said, this world appears abandoned. The other 2 members of the team joined them at the ramp. Hana, the youngest and most excitable of the group, practically bounced with enthusiasm. Can you believe we're actually standing on Earth, the legendary homeworld of humans? Beside her, Jin, the biologist, was already collecting samples of nearby plants. According to our records, humanity destroyed itself nearly 1,000 years ago. Their final war made much of the planet uninhabitable for centuries. And yet nature recovered, Min observed, looking at the lush landscape around them. That's why we're here. Earth's remarkable ability to heal itself could provide answers for our own world's environmental crisis. The Astrali had good reason to be interested. Their home planet, Astral Prime, was suffering from resource depletion after millennia of civilization. Finding solutions had become their society's top priority. Let's set up the research station, Mina directed. Standard protocol, minimal impact on the surroundings. The team worked efficiently, deploying their modular research units. Within hours, a small dome-shaped structure stood in the clearing, nearly invisible thanks to its adaptive camouflage technology. Sensors are active, Gia reported. I'm mapping the surrounding 10 kilometers. Hana had wandered to the edge of the forest, collecting soil samples. The biological diversity here is amazing. I've identified 20 different plant species just in this small area. None of them noticed the small drone hovering silently above the tree line, its camera focused on their activities. 5 kilometers away, Park sat in his monitoring station, watching the feed from his surveillance drone with growing concern. He had been the sole human assigned to this wildlife preserve for 3 years, and nothing like this had ever happened before. Computer, zoom in on those figures, he commanded. The image magnified, showing him clear views of the strange visitors. Park ran his hand through his short black hair. At 32, he had spent most of his adult life in remote wilderness areas, monitoring ecosystems and protecting endangered species. The global rebuilding effort after the Great Collapse had prioritized environmental restoration, and Park was proud of his role in that mission. But these visitors changed everything. Humanity had rebuilt itself slowly over the centuries, adopting a low-impact lifestyle that deliberately avoided the mistakes of the past. The current human population was just a fraction of its historical peak, and most people lived in small, sustainable communities that blended with their surroundings. The wider galaxy believed humans were extinct, and that had been a useful misconception. It kept Earth safe from potential exploitation, while humanity recovered and rebuilt. I need to report this, Park muttered, reaching for his communication device. Then he paused. The Global Council was 3 days' travel away. By the time they responded, who knew what these aliens might do? He needed more information first. Park grabbed his field pack, checking his supplies. Water purifier, emergency rations, first aid kit, multi-tool, and his trusty digital field guide. He slipped a small stunner into his pocket, not that he intended to use it, but caution seemed wise. Back at the Astrala camp, the researchers had finished setting up their equipment and were now conducting their first survey of the area. I'm getting unusual readings from the soil, Jin said, examining her analyzer. The regeneration rate of organic matter is far higher than standard models would predict. Something helped this ecosystem recover much faster than it should have. Could it be artificial? Minna asked. I don't think so. It appears to be a natural adaptation, perhaps triggered by the extreme conditions after the human extinction event. Jia looked up from her scanner. I'm detecting some unusual energy patterns about 5 kilometers north. Very faint, but consistent. Could be a natural phenomenon. Or remnants of human technology. Minna finished. We should investigate tomorrow. For now, let's complete the base setup and secure the perimeter. As night fell, the Astrali retreat into their research dome. Inside, soft blue lighting created a comfortable environment as they reviewed their initial findings. I still can't believe we're here, Hannah said, looking at images of Earth from their ship's approach. The birthplace of humans, a species that spread across their solar system, only to destroy themselves before achieving true interstellar travel. A tragic waste, Jin agreed. Their scientific records show they were on the verge of several major breakthroughs. Unknown to them, Park had crept closer to their camp, using the cover of darkness. He hid behind a large tree trunk, using a directional microphone to listen to their conversations. The strange language they spoke was unlike anything he had ever heard, but their actions seemed more scientific than threatening. They were collecting samples, taking readings, and setting up equipment, not preparing weapons or mining machinery. A twig snapped under Park's foot, and he froze. Inside the dome, Jia looked up. Did you hear that? Minna activated the external sensors, probably local wildlife. The scanners detected several medium-sized mammals in the vicinity. Park carefully backed away. He had seen enough for now. These visitors weren't immediately dangerous, but he needed to learn more about their intentions. Tomorrow, he would continue his observation, perhaps find a way to understand their language. As he made his way back to his station under the stars, Park couldn't help but feel that everything was about to change. After centuries of isolation, Earth was no longer humanity's secret sanctuary. The galaxy had found them again, and he alone stood at the point of first contact. Morning came with heavy clouds hanging low over the forest. The Astrali research team gathered outside their dome, preparing for the day's expedition. Minna studied the sky with concern. The weather patterns are shifting rapidly, she said, checking her atmospheric scanner. I'm detecting electrical activity in those clouds. Jin looked up from her specimen case. Is it safe to proceed with our investigation of those energy readings? We should be fine if we stay together, Minna decided. Jia, bring the portable shield generator just in case. The 4 researchers set off through the forest, following the coordinates Jia had mapped. They moved with natural grace, their tall forms navigating easily between trees and undergrowth. Earth's slightly lower gravity made them feel lighter, more agile. Hannah stopped frequently to collect samples, fascinated by Earth's biodiversity. Look at these fungi, she exclaimed, crouching beside a fallen log covered in bright orange mushrooms. They're breaking down the wood at an accelerated rate compared to similar species on other worlds. Jin joined her, taking readings with her bioscanner. The entire ecosystem here has adapted to rapid regeneration. It's as if the planet itself wanted to erase all signs of human destruction. Meanwhile, Park had woken early and returned to monitoring the aliens. Through his drone feed, he tracked their movement through the forest, directly toward his station. He quickly shut down all non-essential systems, reducing his energy signature. They must have detected something, he muttered, gathering his equipment. He needed to observe them more closely, to understand their intentions. I'm getting unusual readings from the soil, Jin said, examining her analyzer. The regeneration rate of organic matter is far higher than standard models would predict. Something helped this ecosystem recover much faster than it should have. Could it be artificial? Minna asked. I don't think so. It appears to be a natural adaptation, perhaps triggered by the extreme conditions after the human extinction event. Jia looked up from her scanner. I'm detecting some unusual energy patterns about 5 kilometers north. Very faint, but consistent. Could be a natural phenomenon. Or remnants of human technology. Minna finished. We should investigate tomorrow. For now, let's complete the base setup and secure the perimeter. As night fell, the Australi retreat into their research dome. Inside, soft blue lighting created a comfortable environment as they reviewed their initial findings. I still can't believe we're here, Hannah said, looking at images of Earth from their ship's approach. The birthplace of humans, a species that spread across their solar system, only to destroy themselves before achieving true interstellar travel. A tragic waste, Jin agreed. Their scientific records show they were on the verge of several major breakthroughs. Unknown to them, Park had crept closer to their camp, using the cover of darkness. He hid behind a large tree trunk, using a directional microphone to listen to their conversations. The strange language they spoke was unlike anything he had ever heard, but their actions seemed more scientific than threatening. They were collecting samples, taking readings, and setting up equipment, not preparing weapons or mining machinery. A twig snapped under Park's foot, and he froze. Inside the dome, Jia looked up. Did you hear that? Minna activated the external sensors, probably local wildlife. The scanners detected several medium-sized mammals in the vicinity. Park carefully backed away. He had seen enough for now. These visitors weren't immediately dangerous, but he needed to learn more about their intentions. Tomorrow, he would continue his observation, perhaps find a way to understand their language. As he made his way back to his station under the stars, Park couldn't help but feel that everything was about to change. After centuries of isolation, Earth was no longer humanity's secret sanctuary. The galaxy had found them again, and he alone stood at the point of first contact. Morning came with heavy clouds hanging low over the forest. The Australi research team gathered outside their dome, preparing for the day's expedition. Minna studied the sky with concern. The weather patterns are shifting rapidly, she said, checking her atmospheric scanner. I'm detecting electrical activity in those clouds. Jin looked up from her specimen case. Is it safe to proceed with our investigation of those energy readings? We should be fine if we stay together, Minna decided. Jia, bring the portable shield generator just in case. The 4 researchers set off through the forest, following the coordinates Jia had mapped. They moved with natural grace, their tall forms navigating easily between trees and undergrowth. Earth's slightly lower gravity made them feel lighter, more agile. Hannah stopped frequently to collect samples, fascinated by Earth's biodiversity. Look at these fungi, she exclaimed, crouching beside a fallen log covered in bright orange mushrooms. They're breaking down the wood at an accelerated rate compared to similar species on other worlds. Jin joined her, taking readings with her bioscanner. The entire ecosystem here has adapted to rapid regeneration. It's as if the planet itself wanted to erase all signs of human destruction. Meanwhile, Park had woken early and returned to monitoring the aliens. Through his drone feed, he tracked their movement through the forest. Directly toward his station, he quickly shut down all non-essential systems, reducing his energy signature. They must have detected something, he muttered, gathering his equipment. He needed to observe them more closely, to understand their intentions. Outside, the storm continued to rage. Inside, 2 beings from different worlds studied each other with fascination and caution, each realizing that everything they thought they knew about the other had just changed forever. The storm passed overnight, leaving the forest dripping and fresh in the morning light. Inside Park Station, Hannah sat across from him at a small table, sipping a hot beverage he had prepared. They had talked for hours, each sharing basic information about their worlds. My team must be worried, Hannah said, looking out the window. I should contact them. Park nodded. I have been watching your camp since you arrived. I can take you back there. But he paused, considering his next words. What will your people do now that you know humans still exist? Hannah tilted her head. Our mission was purely scientific. We came to study Earth's ecosystem because our own world faces environmental challenges. She looked directly at him. But this changes everything. First contact with a species believed extinct. It's historic. Park finished his tea. For centuries, humanity has lived quietly, rebuilding our relationship with Earth. We've stayed hidden from the galaxy, and that has protected us. You fear exploitation, Hannah realized. You think if others know humans survive, they might come for your resources. Wouldn't they? Park asked simply. Before Hannah could answer, a soft beeping came from her communication device. It's my team. They're searching for me. Park helped Hannah send her coordinates to her teammates. Within an hour, 3 tall figures emerged from the forest edge, approaching the station cautiously. Wait here, Park said. Let me go out first. This will be shocking for them. He stepped outside, standing tall as the 3 Australi researchers stopped abruptly at the sight of him. Minna raised a small device, perhaps scanning or defensive. You're human, she stated, her translator converting her words. Her voice contained both disbelief and wonder. I am, Park confirmed. My name is Park. I found your teammate Hannah during the storm. She's safe inside. As if on cue, Hannah appeared in the doorway. It's true, Minna. Humans didn't go extinct. They've been here all along, living differently than before. The reunion was filled with questions and exclamations. Jin was particularly fascinated, her scientific curiosity overcoming her initial shock. May we come inside? Minna asked formally. We have much to discuss. Park's small station was crowded with 5 people, but he offered what hospitality he could. The Australi researchers sat awkwardly on furniture designed for human proportions. Our historical records documented the fall of human civilization, Jin explained. Massive wars, environmental collapse, radiation, all signs pointed to extinction. Almost, Park acknowledged. But small groups survived in remote areas with less damage. We realized we needed to change or truly disappear forever. So you abandoned technology? Jia asked, looking around at the simple but effective systems in the station. Park shook his head. Not abandoned, reimagined. We developed technologies that work with natural systems instead of against them. Our population is just 30 million now, spread across Earth in small communities. 30 million, Minna repeated, from a species that once numbered billions. Quality of life over quantity, Park said simply. We live long, healthy lives in balance with our world. The discussion continued as Park explained human history since the Great Collapse. The Australi shared information about their own world and the wider galactic community. Would you be willing to show us how humans live now? Minna asked eventually. Your approach might hold solutions for our world. Park considered this. I need to contact the Global Council first. This decision isn't mine alone. He paused. Meanwhile, I could show you some of our restoration projects in this region. The next day, Park led the Australi team through the forest to a ridge overlooking a vast valley. What had once been a sprawling city was now barely visible. Trees and plants had reclaimed concrete and steel, with only the tallest structures still visible above the canopy. This was called Denver, Park explained. Now we call it the Western Recovery Zone. A few thousand people live there now, in harmony with the reclaimed landscape. Jin used her instruments to analyze the area. The biodiversity readings are extraordinary, and the soil composition metrics. The land is actually healing itself. With some help, Park added. We used engineered microorganisms to break down pollutants and accelerate natural processes. But mostly, we just got out of the way and let nature do what it does best. Over the following days, a cautious trust developed. Park received authorization from the Global Council to share limited information with the visitors. In return, the Australi provided knowledge about sustainable technologies they had developed. One morning, Park took them to a small clearing where several dome structures similar to their own research station blended almost invisibly with the surroundings. What is this place? Hannah asked. A seed bank and research facility, Park explained. We're preserving genetic diversity and studying adaptation patterns. The facility's door opened and a woman emerged. She looked surprised to see the visitors. Park, the council mentioned you had made contact, but she trailed off, staring at the Astrali. Son, these are researchers from Astral Prime. Park introduced them. This is Dr. Sun, our regional biologist. Sun recovered quickly from her surprise. Welcome to Earth. Would you like to see our work? Inside the facility, the Astrali were impressed by the elegant simplicity of human science. While less advanced in some ways than their own technology, the human approaches showed a deep integration with natural systems. Your society learned from its mistakes, Minna observed as Sun showed them seed preservation techniques. That's rare. We had no choice, Sun replied. It was adapt or perish. That evening, as they returned to the Astrali camp, Gia received an alert from their ship's automated systems. Another vessel has entered Earth's solar system, she announced, checking her datapad. It's an Astrali merchant ship, the Harvester. Minna frowned. They weren't scheduled to follow us. Why would they come here? Resource survey, most likely, Jin suggested, if they detected our landing. Park felt a chill. What does a resource survey involve? The four Astrali exchanged uncomfortable looks before Minna answered. Scanning for valuable minerals, evaluating extraction potential. She hesitated, determining if a planet is suitable for development. You mean exploitation, Park said flatly. Some merchant guilds are aggressive in claiming unclaimed worlds, Hannah admitted. But Earth isn't unclaimed anymore. We've confirmed human presence. Have you reported that officially? Park asked. Minna's silence was answer enough. Then, as far as they know, Park said grimly, Earth is still an abandoned planet, ripe for the taking. The Harvester entered Earth's atmosphere 3 days later, its massive hull dwarfing the Astrali research vessel. Park watched from the forest edge as the cargo ship descended toward a flat plain about 2 kilometers from the research camp. Its engines kicked up dust and flattened the surrounding vegetation as it settled onto its landing struts. That's much bigger than your ship, Park said to Minna, who stood beside him with binoculars. The Harvester is a Class 3 resource extraction vessel, she explained. It carries mining equipment, processing facilities, and a crew of about 20. Park's face darkened. Mining equipment? They're already planning to dig up my home. Not if we stop them, Hannah said firmly. She had barely left Park's side since their first meeting during the storm. We need to inform them that Earth is inhabited. They watched as a ramp extended from the Harvester and 5 figures descended. 4 were clearly security personnel, wearing fitted armor and carrying weapons. The 5th, walking confidently in front, wore an elaborate uniform with insignia that marked her as the captain. That's Dara, Gia said, recognizing the captain. She's well known among merchant guilds. Very effective at finding resources, and not always concerned with regulations. Park studied the newcomers through the binoculars. We need to approach carefully. Those weapons look serious. Let me go first, Minna suggested. Captain Dara will expect a report from our research team. I can introduce you formally. They agreed on a plan. Minna and Jin would approach the Harvester crew first, while Park, Hannah, and Gia remained hidden nearby, ready to intervene if needed. As the 2 Astrali researchers walked into the open, Park felt his heart pounding. So much depended on this meeting. Captain Dara spotted the approaching researchers and smiled broadly. Minna, what luck finding you here. Your preliminary scans looked promising. Is this mudball as resource-rich as it appears? Minna kept her expression neutral. Captain Dara, we weren't expecting a merchant vessel to follow our expedition. This was meant to be a scientific mission only. Dara waved her hand dismissively. Science, commerce, both serve Astral Prime in their way. Your initial readings showed rare Earth elements and several valuable biological compounds. Her eyes gleamed. The guild will pay handsomely for extraction rights. "There's something you should know," Minna said carefully. "This planet is not abandoned as our records indicated. We've made contact with surviving humans." Dara's smile faltered, then returned more tightly. "Humans? Impossible. They destroyed themselves centuries ago." "A common misconception," came Park's voice as he stepped out from the tree line. "We nearly did, but we survived and rebuilt." Dara's security team immediately raised their weapons, but she signaled them to hold. Her eyes narrowed as she studied Park. "One primitive local doesn't change anything," she said coldly. "According to galactic registry protocols, a planet must have a global civilization or population exceeding 1 billion to qualify for protected status. Earth has 30 million humans," Jin argued, "living in sustainable communities across the planet." Dara scoffed. "Scattered tribes at best, hardly a civilization." She turned to her security team. "Set up a perimeter. Begin preliminary scans for the nearest mineral deposits." Park stepped forward. "This is our home. We won't allow you to strip mine it." "You have no choice," Dara said, her tone almost pitying. "Your species had its chance and squandered it. The resources of this world shouldn't go to waste just because you failed." The tense standoff was interrupted by a call from the harvester. One of Dara's crew appeared at the top of the ramp. "Captain, we're detecting approaching aircraft from the south. Multiple signatures, moving fast." Park smiled slightly. "That would be the Global Council response team. I contacted them after we detected your ship's approach." Dara looked genuinely surprised. "You have working aircraft. Communication technology. We chose to live simply," Park explained, "not primitively." Within minutes, 3 sleek, nearly silent aircraft appeared overhead. Their design was elegant and efficient, clearly advanced though different from the angular, powerful ships of the Astrali. They circled once, then 2 landed while the third continued to patrol above. A dozen humans emerged, wearing simple but functional uniforms. Their leader, a woman with gray-streaked hair, approached with confident strides. "I am Director Lee of the Global Council," she announced after Mina's translator had adjusted to her speech patterns. "This planet is under human protection. State your purpose here." Captain Dara had recovered her composure. "Director, I am simply following standard resource assessment protocols for an unclaimed world. Your presence is unexpected, but doesn't change galactic law. Earth is still classified as abandoned in all official records." Director Lee's expression remained calm. "Then the records are outdated and must be corrected. Earth is our homeworld. We have maintained continuous civilization here since our origins." "A civilization of only 30 million?" Dara challenged. "That barely qualifies as a colonial outpost by galactic standards." "Numbers aren't everything," Park interjected. "We chose quality over quantity, sustainability over expansion." Director Lee nodded. "After nearly destroying ourselves, we learned hard lessons. We rebuilt with purpose and balance." The standoff continued until Minna stepped forward with a solution. "There is a provision in galactic registry protocols for cultural heritage worlds. Planets with unique historical or evolutionary significance can receive protected status regardless of population size." Jin quickly accessed data on her pad. "Earth qualifies under Section 12.3. It's the origin world of a spacefaring species." "You never achieved true interstellar travel," Dara argued. "Your furthest missions barely reach your own system's outer planets. We reached far enough to be recognized as spacefaring before the collapse." Director Lee countered. "Our historical records confirm this, as do yours." Dara looked frustrated but calculating. Even if that provision applies, it requires verification by a recognized galactic authority. She smiled thinly. "Which could take years to process while preliminary resource assessment proceeds." Park had been quietly observing. Now he spoke up. "Captain Dara, look around you. This planet has recovered from near destruction because we learned to work with nature, not against it. The resources you want to extract are part of living systems that sustain us all. Pretty words. Dara dismissed him. But the guild will. She was interrupted by an alarm from her ship. One of her crew called down urgently. Captain, something's interfering with our scanning systems, and the ship's computer is showing multiple system failures. Hana and Jia exchanged knowing looks. While the confrontation had been happening, they had quietly deployed several small devices, technology sharing between humans and Australia researchers already bearing fruit. Park smiled. You're welcome to stay and learn about Earth, but if you came to exploit it, he gestured to the aircraft still circling overhead. We may live simply, but we protect what's ours. Dara looked from the malfunctioning ship to the calm, determined faces around her. For the first time, uncertainty showed in her expression. Perhaps, she said slowly, a cultural exchange would be more beneficial than resource extraction, at least until the planet's status is formally reviewed. Director Lee nodded. We would welcome peaceful exchange, but Earth remains under human protection. That is non-negotiable. As the tension began to ease, Park looked at Hana and the other researchers who had become unexpected bridges between worlds. The path ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in centuries, humanity was rejoining the galactic community on its own terms. The summer sun warmed the clearing as construction finished on the new Earth Australia Research Center. 6 months had passed since the confrontation with the Harvester. The merchant ship had departed Earth 2 weeks after Captain Dara reluctantly accepted that mining operations would not be permitted. In its place, a different kind of exchange had flourished. Park stood at the edge of the clearing, watching as humans and Australia worked together to install solar collectors on the center's living roof. The building blended harmoniously with the surrounding forest, partly buried in a hillside, with walls of living plants and recycled materials. It's beautiful, Hana said, joining him. She had remained on Earth when the original research vessel departed with Captain Mina to present their findings to the Australia government. Nothing like this exists on Astral Prime. It's what we do now, Park replied. Build with nature, not against it. Director Lee approached them, carrying a data pad. The Galactic Registry Council has made their preliminary decision, she announced. Earth has been granted provisional status as a cultural heritage world. Full protection from resource exploitation, while the final review proceeds. Park smiled. That's good news. We have Mina to thank, Hana said. Her testimony was crucial. The three of them walked toward the center, where a small celebration was beginning. Human and Australia researchers mingled together, sharing food and stories. Jin was demonstrating Earth cooking techniques to fascinated Australia visitors, while Gio worked with human technicians to integrate compatible technologies. Did you ever imagine this outcome when you first spotted their ship? Director Lee asked Park quietly. He shook his head. I thought I might need to hide them from humanity, or hide humanity from them. I never expected partnership. The center represented something new for both species. For humans, it was their first step back into galactic affairs after centuries of isolation. For the Australia, it was a chance to learn Earth's methods of environmental regeneration, knowledge desperately needed on their resource-depleted homeworld. Park, Jin called from across the clearing. Come try this new hybrid dish we created. As he joined the group, Park found himself seated between Jin and a human botanist named Kai. They had been working together to identify Earth plants that might thrive on Astral Prime. We've identified 16 species that could help restore their soil biology, Kai explained excitedly. And their atmospheric processing technology could help us reclaim the Eastern Dead Zone faster than we thought possible. Jin nodded enthusiastically. Our worlds have complementary knowledge. What one lacks, the other provides. As the celebration continued, Park noticed Hana standing apart, looking up at the evening sky, where the first stars were becoming visible. Missing home? He asked, joining her. Thinking about it, she admitted, but also about here. She turned to face him. The Astrali Council has approved my request to serve as permanent scientific liaison to Earth. Park felt an unexpected happiness at this news. You're staying. If Earth will have me, she said, there's so much more to learn, to share between our worlds. From behind them, Director Lee spoke. Earth would be honored to have you, Hannah. In fact, we've been discussing the possibility of sending a small human delegation to Astral Prime in return. Hark looked at her in surprise. Humans leaving Earth. That hasn't happened since before the collapse. Times change, Lee said simply. We've hidden long enough. Perhaps we needed this reminder that we're not alone in the universe. She handed Park a datapad. The Council has nominated you as Earth's ambassador, if you're willing. Your experience with the Astrali makes you uniquely qualified. Park stared at the pad, emotions conflicting within him. Leave Earth. The very idea seemed impossible. Yet the thought of seeing Hannah's world, of representing humanity among the stars again,